Welcome to STAR's SBS tutorial on building bracing. There are multiple types of bracing that can be utilized throughout the building with various configurations. The most cost-effective means of bracing a building is diaphragm action using the panels, i.e. PBR, as a shear panel. Next would be cables and rods. Cables are not as desirable as rods due to stretching, but they are available as an option. Angles are the next more costly option, typically reserved for higher load cases or special code restrictions. And finally, there are fixed base bracing columns, FBBC, and portal frames. The FBBC is useful when additional wall space is required for framed openings, etc., but it has some additional concrete foundation considerations. The portal frame is the most expensive SBS input for bracing. To begin bracing input in SBS for pricing, navigate to the Building Input screen using the Add Building to Project icon or the Modify Building in Project icon. Click the Next button until you get to the Bracing tab. At the top of this page you will find pull-down menus for all walls, roof, and long bay purlins. There are also buttons that allow you to locate bracing types on the building walls and roof, as well as buttons for X-brace anchor locations, sidewall portal frame options, endwall portal frame options, and interior column bracing locations that will be addressed in another tutorial. Additionally, there are pull-down menus for girt bracing for all walls and toggles for purlin bracing, rafter flange bracing, and column flange bracing. Be sure to read the red notes associated with the various input selections. Let's start with the roof bracing. Locate the pull-down menu labeled Roof in the upper middle section of the page. Your roof bracing options include rod, cable, angle, or diaphragm action. Diaphragm action is the most economical bracing option, but has limited use due to the amount of force the selected roof panel can resist. Some roof panels, such as floating standing seam roof systems, are not allowed to be used with diaphragm action bracing. Cables can be used but are seldom selected due to their inherent maintenance requirements. They periodically have to be retightened due to stretching to ensure structural adequacy. Rods are by far the most common and preferred method of bracing in the roof. The final roof bracing option is angles. Angles are typically reserved for high load applications like high winds or for special code requirements. Next, let's look at the sidewall bracing. Find the pull-down menu in the upper middle section of the page labeled Sidewall C and Sidewall A. These drop-down menus will contain the same type of bracing options. There is diaphragm action and cable bracing, just as previously discussed for roof bracing options. Also, there is rod and angle bracing, similar to the roof but different in that it can be tiered. Some building features that might require tiered bracing would include mezzanines, below eave lean-to attachment, cranes, very tall buildings, etc. Next is the fixed base bracing column, FBBC. This is a column that bolts its flange to the web of a frame column and to the foundation. Think of it as bolting a flagpole to your frame column. They can be placed on either side of the bay in which they are to be located. FBBCs are intended to be used for buildings where sidewall usable area for framed openings, etc. is a premium. Please see the SBS help files for limitations to using the FBBC. The next typical bracing type is portal frames. Portal frames are used when a sidewall bay needs to remain free of obstruction from X-bracing, i.e. rods. This allows the builder to input framed openings, windows, doors, etc. into the bay. The final type of sidewall bracing available for pricing in SBS is transfer to opposite wall. This is an option typically saved for when all other bracing options are not feasible. Transfer to opposite wall, or torsion bracing, allows the end walls and the sidewall on the opposite side to handle longitudinal movement. Please see the SBS help files for restrictions, requirements for this option to be utilized. The last option available in the sidewall bracing pull-down menu is None. However, this selection is only applicable when there is a full-height open area shear wall that will provide adequate bracing and a support beam for the open area is selected to be supplied by Star. Input for open areas can be found under the Accessories tab. Next is endwall bracing. Endwall bracing is only required and enabled for editing, not grayed out, if the endwall is a non-expandable bearing frame or hipped endwall. Find the pull-down menu in the upper middle section of the page labeled Endwall B and Endwall D. These menus will contain the same type of bracing options as the sidewalls with the exception of FBBCs, portal frames, and transfer to opposite wall. Also, there is one additional type of bracing, rack to frame, which will be covered momentarily. Similar to sidewall bracing, rod, cable, and angle bracing are available endwall bracing options. Portal frames are available in hipped endwalls, Endwall B in our example, but are not available for selection in non-expandable bearing frame endwalls, Endwall D. None is a bracing option for the non-expandable bearing frame endwalls, just as on sidewalls, but is not an option on hipped endwalls. The additional bracing type that is available for non-expandable bearing frame endwalls only is rack to frame. This allows the loads from the endwall to be transferred to the adjacent frame. This is a cost-effective way to remove X-bracing from an endwall to free up valuable wall real estate for accessories. Note that the end bays of the roof, next to the end wall to utilize rack to frame bracing, must be braced with rods or angles. Please see the SBS help files for limitations to use of this option. For all bracing types in all of the building planes, SBS will default locate these options for convenience. We hope that this tutorial has answered your questions regarding roof, sidewalls, and endwall bracing types and input. For information on locating the bracing options, please see Part 2 of SBS Bracing Tutorial. Thank you.